Hi, my name is Sarah Valentine, and this is my YouTube and podcast project slash consultancy project. Okay, so here are some things that I have learned from this class. I've learned how to be a warm demander and how that is how Christ taught and how we should be, and how we need to fit into that one square rather than, when it's like up and down, where it's like super strict and super not like super interested, not interested, and then super demanding, not demanding at all. Like we need that very like square where it's like being kind and expecting a lot from our students in order to help them grow the most. I've also learned what mastery-based learning is and some ideas on how to do it. When we had that reading of the mastery-based learning, it was really interesting, and it's been one of my very favorite readings on how like what is mastery-based learning, because I had never learned that before. And like once he explained it and why we need it, like it just kind of all clicked, and how in every other like thing we do, like we wait to move on until we are completely like done with that and know about it. But in school, that's definitely not the case. And so many students fall behind in school because they just keep repeating that process over and over again, and they just feel like they can't do anything. But really, they just have a different pace and they learn differently than others, which is how no two people learn the same way. I've also learned how to help others with their mental health and how important that is. To just help others with their mental health and some ways that you can help them and talk to them about it and approach them about it, especially students, like maybe like what to look out for. And that's important. What a growth and fixed mindset is. That one's pretty self-explanatory. I knew a little bit about this before I came to this class, but not a whole ton. And I'm glad I got a refresher. And also I'm taking a college success class, and we focus a lot on that. What internal and external locus of control is. I didn't know about this one. And I thought it was really interesting. Like how you perceive, like, like whether like the world is acting on you or you're acting on the world. And I think that's a really cool mindset to have. And a good mix between, internal and external and growth and fixed, there is not like a perfect like combination of those things, but kind of using a little bit of everything in certain ways. And I also learned that learning styles are just a myth, and the best way to use is like use all of them. This kind of also blew my mind, because for a really long time I thought that there was, different learning styles, and like I have like literally like notes on my phone of things I want to do as a teacher. And one of my like top things on those lists is to test my students on what learning style they have. That way I can like match them up with the same learning style and create activities and assignments based off of that. That way they can learn best that they can. But apparently that's not a thing, and I think that's really interesting. So the art of good enough, I love this. That also seems to be like with a warm demander, like you demand a lot, but also you're warm and you understand that sometimes it is just good enough and you can move on. The difference between thriving and surviving, I think this is good in a lot of aspects. Like you can look at that in others, you can look at that in yourself and know, and then tie in your mental health with that and where you can improve. What schools are for, I'll put that on the next slide, but I have my triangle that I made, that we control our own happiness. I think this is really important. Like there is like that one statistic where it's like, if I know every single thing about your life, I can only predict 10% of your happiness, 25% of your happiness. I'm not exactly sure what this statistic is, but I think that's really interesting. It's all about us and how we see the world and how we fix our own problems and how we deal with the things coming at our way. Be purposeful with what technology we use in the classroom. We have, those tools to help us like figure out like what like section it goes in and like stuff. And I think that's important to make sure we're, using it, not just to use it, but using it in a purposeful way. And then the most asked question in the classroom should not be, is this going to be on the test? That kind of goes with mastery-based learning, but I think that's a really big one for me, that I never want my students to feel like they are only in school to memorize and to get an A and to get the grade, to get the grade rather than get the grade to learn, Okay, next slide. This is what schools are for. So on the bottom, this is like Marlowe's hierarchy of needs, I think. And even though it's like kind of a myth, like we kind of did this in class already, but on the bottom, it's learn basic subject and skills. And I think that's just important, a baseline, to kind of very broad, like one of the first steps, like you kind of need, that's what schools are basically for. And then that's next step up is to contribute to society and gain social skills. I think that's, like a step up from that, like, not only are you learning things, but you're learning how to do things and interact with other people. And then the third one up is to understand mental health and gain knowledge. I think this is just one, it's one step higher than that. Not only are you learning basic skills, not only are you contributing to society, but you understand your mental health and others' mental health and know how to not only contribute to society, but be like a positive contributor to society and really help that. And then fourth one up, find, follow, and become experts in your field and find your passion. That's one that you really hone in, that's not something you can do at the very beginning. You have to, learn basic skills, contribute to society, understand and gain knowledge. And then once you find that, then you can find your passion and become an expert in your field. And then last one is grow, express, create, and innovate. And I think this is just like the top tier of the triangle because it's like the most advanced you can do, can't get to that until you get to everything else. But that is ultimately what we want in schools, and that's the best outcome. Okay. Let's see. Let me move this. I understand, Bropa, why you're always annoyed with this little bar. Hard lessons I've learned from this class. Okay. First one is that real effort shows. First couple weeks of school, I think I don't know. I was kind of scared about this class and didn't know exactly what to expect. But I learned very fast that you have to most classes, but especially this one, real effort shows. You have to put effort into it, and you have to be really you can't just fake it till you make it. That motto is not going to work in this class. Second one is ask questions. I am someone who asks a lot of questions, and I'm probably the person in my class time that asks the most questions. But just because I need, I like lots of clarification, make sure I'm doing exactly things right. And that's the way I learn best. And this class just continued to help me know that it's good to ask questions. And I may be, asking too many questions, or I may, half the questions I don't even ask. I ask the neighbor next to me and be like, hey, do you know what's going on? Do you know what's happening? But I really like to do that. And I learned that I can still ask questions. Your best work is never last minute. I have done life happens. I've done a couple projects last minute, and that is never my best work. And I know that. And, some people are like, oh, I work good under stress. I don't. I like things planned out, and my best work is never last minute. Most stuff I thought was helpful is not. I kind of mentioned this in the previous slide, but some things I thought were learning style and really catering to that kind of stuff. It's actually a myth. And while there's not a perfect way to teach, some things just aren't, there's things that aren't a perfect way, if that makes sense. Being nice is not the same as being kind. I think this was a really cool thing that Robot taught us, that being nice, not Christ-like. Being kind is, though. And there's a difference between having boundaries and knowing what you want, and not letting people run over you, rather than just accepting things, and just having, just being a nice person, which is something I have tried to work on, because I feel I'm overly nice sometimes when I don't feel comfortable being nice. And I think that gets me into some situation that I don't want to be in. And then there's no right way to teach. Like I said, there's no right way to teach, but there are certainly wrong ways to teach. And so there's a big, we have to innovate and create new ways and everything. Okay. Apps I'm going to use in my future classroom. I think Canva is a really good presentation tool. And it's really engaging, fun to look at. And I think it's a really good thing to have my students work on too. I actually am about to help my roommate make a resume, and I recommend Canva because I really, really like it. I think it's really useful and pretty easy to use and cheap and everything. Class Dojo, I think it's great for keeping students well behaved. My plan right now is to teach 5th grade, and I don't know, I think that's getting into the age limit where students are kind of uninterested in that. So I don't know, depending on what grade, I think it'll work better for different grades, but I really like this app and I thought it was really cool. Loom, and I think I'll use it to make step-by-step tutorials on doing something online. because I think, having that visual aspect along with the audio, along with, whatever to have, because different types of learning are a myth. So you kind of just got to use all of them. I think that's a really good way to do it. And then Flipgrid, I think is really good for quick videos and responses. I really enjoyed like looking at people's videos when we've had to do this project. I think we've done it a couple times. And then also like responding with a quick video. And I don't know how it looks from the teacher side, but from the student side, it looks pretty cool. And I like that they're kind of quick and you can respond to a lot of them or get halfway through a video, like, I don't want to respond to this one, I like it. Okay, and then here is my part of the consultancy project. So 3 things I would change is number 1, oral presentations. They don't feel very organized or very effective. I've talked to people who have gotten called on every single time, like literally every single time. And I've also talked to people who have gotten called on no times. And I think it's a really good idea to have it be like, kind of informal and just like a quick assessment, but I don't think that it is very well organized. And I think it would be a lot more helpful to us and Bropa as a teacher to like really, to make it a little more organized that way we both know we're getting what we need out of it. Lab hours. I don't think they're on the best day. And this is my one I'm going to focus on. So I'll talk about that later. At attendance checks, I feel like most of the questions are just busy work. And I tend to like not really think about it and just kind of like put something in there because I'm just trying to submit my notes really fast. And I think it would be better if we talk about it in class or like at the end of class, have a couple minutes, like write it down in notebooks rather than submitting it online later. Okay, so for lab hours, I think the date needs to change, that they're held and possibly the time. I think the lab hours right now are currently on Fridays from 4 to 6 p.m. The one thing I choose to pick in this class is lab hours on, I think, be more useful on Wednesdays to the 4 to 6 or Tuesdays 4 to 6, depending on what day the classes are. The projects for this class are due on Saturday. So personally, when I go to lab hours and wait to understand the project until that point, till I know that someone's going to be there and I can have help on that, I feel like I'm procrastinating. I'm not being very responsible rather than, because I feel like that's what lab hours are for, rather than just like having a couple like finishing touches. More of like, I need to understand this. I need help with other things. And I feel like Fridays are not the best day for that. So in the midterm survey results, the average number that the people responded with from like a 1 to 5 on like, I completely agree and I don't agree at all, for finding lab hours useful was a 3.75, which isn't awful, but it isn't the best considering that almost all the other ones were in the 4s, like very high 4s, like 4.7, 4.5, 4 whatever, which I think is super interesting because I think a lot of this class is really helpful and really cool. But I think this particular thing is not. Okay. Sorry, I can't see. I think so. There's a couple of reasons to why we move it earlier to the week is that more people would come because most people have plans on Fridays, or they're just like, if they don't have classes, that's a day that they're just like kind of chilling in their apartment rather than going up to campus. I think people would get better grades because they would go to the lab hours, and that'd be helpful for them to understand the project. It'd be less stressful because they would know more about the project. I feel like lots of times I'm very confused about the project until I really like dig deep and then have a class period about it. And I look at the presentation and, kind of ask a couple of friends. And then more time with Robot. That's always a good thing. And the cool TAs. We have wonderful TAs. Yeah, because like I said, like the presentation, like the people who present, I think student presentation is a really good idea, but I feel like sometimes when the students present, it's like they have already done like lots of the research and so I feel like sometimes they start presenting as if like just giving the expectations of the project versus like, what is the project? What are we doing? Because I know it probably should, but like I don't come to class. I having already looked at the project for that week or whatever. So that'd be helpful. So I think lab hours would be more used on Wednesdays or the day after or the day of the class period that we have. I think that'd be really useful. That's it. So let me just unshare my screen. Yeah, so that is all I have to say, and thanks for a good semester.